This is the book I'm using, Love and Logic. When it comes to parenting, a lot of us, like if you get a new job, you are learning how to do it, right? Like you're going through training. But when it comes to parenting or marriage, it's like we get thrown into it and then people just kind of figure it out and try to wing it, and it leaves a lot of frustrated and hurt kids, and it leaves a lot of like anger and frustration for the parent. And so I really hope that like today's class can give you guys a little bit of like practical walkaways, because I want you guys to be able to like thrive as moms and not just like survive and just kind of like wonder why it's so hard. Like it should be such a joy, even in the hard things. Like there is like such a sweetness to mothering, because it really is like the intentional stewarding of someone's heart, and you have so much power over that person's heart to like grow them into something so beautiful that God can use later, you know, and not just go through continuous cycles of like trauma and hurt and sadness, you know, the things that I'm sure all of us have had to deal with, like from our parents' lack, or we don't want to continue keeping like the same cycles. We do want to break those for our children and their children and so on. And so I want to start out with that, like as moms and as dads, but since this is a women's class, as moms, you guys are like the most important resource for your children. Nobody can replace you, like no teachers, no media, no outside voices. Like you guys, God has placed you specifically in your family to mother and steward your children. And so I really want every one of you to walk away feeling encouraged today that you are exactly where you're supposed to be, and that God has given you everything that you need to carry out all the assignments ahead of you, regardless how hard. And so with Love and Logic, what I love about it, because I do believe in biblical parenting, I do believe like there's training up a child, there's disciplines, there's different ways like that. But I do believe sometimes we can get so like spiritual that we forget that God is also practical, and He loves to give us like hands-on application. But with Love and Logic, if you guys are familiar, if you've ever been speeding in a car, what happens when you see a police? Like typically you slow down and you're like, oh, I don't want to get a ticket. So what that is like that outward governing, like that outward control. So Love and Logic, what it does is instead of it having like that outward control your decisions or your choices, it teaches you how to have an inward control, like an inward conviction, inward way of governing yourself. So regardless if I'm around the police or not, I am choosing out of my conviction to make a good choice. And so this is a lot of like what I'll be going through, teaching your children practical ways. So a lot of times what happens with parents is that people will kind of just wing it, like they go through their baby and toddler stage, kind of like just figuring it out till it becomes like adolescent and teenagers. And then they start like, you know, like laying down the law and like start getting more strict. But with parenting, it's so like wonderful to set those limits when the kids are little, continue establishing that connection and that respect as they continue to age, instead of vice versa. All right, so I'm gonna go through 4 principles. Is 1, to build self-concept in your children. If a child can't be disciplined or controlled by his parents, they actually will start believing these lies like, if I'm not good enough to be like controlled or have limits set, then who can set limits for me? Like it almost creates like a sense of resentment and hurt in them if they don't have a healthy like self-esteem, self-concept. And I'll go through that in just a minute. The second principle would be share control. Control is like love. The more we give away, the more we get in return. And this one I would say is a big one for moms, because if you're anything like me, like everything has to have its space, and like I like things organized, I like it a certain way. And so sharing the control can be difficult, but we'll talk about that in just a minute. And then the third principle would be offering empathy and then consequences. So allowing your child to learn from their mistakes instead of learning to resent authorities. And the fourth one would be share thinking. Every problem needs to have an owner. You want them to think more than you are thinking for them. Like every problem should have its owner, otherwise it won't get solved. And one of my like favorite ways to think about parenting is to think of our children like a garden. I get to have the power to lay down seeds into my child's heart and nurture it and nourish it, and then trust that God will grow that seed of life. And so that's the same thing like negatively. If I'm like sowing in like weeds and not taking care of their hearts, they will grow up like diseased and infected and hurt. And so I love that analogy for me. Like if I notice in my home, like my kids are misbehaving and there's a lot of disconnect, I think of that like, how can I till the soil? Like how can I uproot the weeds? How can I heal the disease? You know, like having that mindset, because it allows you to have a beautiful way to see your children of planting into them and watching that fruit come instead of just like trying to figure it out. The 2 rules of Love and Logic, specifically what I'm going through today. 1 is taking care of yourself by setting limits in a healthy and loving way. And 2, turning every mistake or misbehavior into a learning opportunity. Anyways, I'm just kind of going through this book because I want to go into like more conversational mode, but I just kind of want to lay down like a foundation for it. A lot of like your parenting might be done out of anger, frustration. It might be done out of like, just do what I say and just do it. Like there's not quite a lot of connection or conversation or a lot of like relationship, especially with littles. Like it almost seems like a lot of it is just like commands, and when they don't follow through, and I'm sure we've all experienced this, if the child doesn't follow through, it's immediate like frustration or anger or like, why aren't they listening to me? And it continues this vicious cycle. One of the best things to like practically like come against that is to learn how to say less. And I'm gonna go through examples in just a minute, but when you give your child consequences and anger, with anger, it only produces more anger. Like it produces more anger in your heart and in your child's heart. But if you can release those consequences with a heart of empathy, it will open their minds to learning. If you notice like your child, you might say something, you're doing it out of anger or stress or frustration. Like you might notice that they almost go into like a quick misbehavior, quick response. And what it really does is like anger shuts off our brain. It puts us into like a fight or flight mode almost, where it closes their mind to learning what you're trying to give to them. Versus like when you're like coming with empathy and compassion for your child, opens their mind up to learning. I would say the most important thing as a parent is to not be afraid of your child making mistakes. One of the most important things. And to treat every single mistake or misbehavior or sin or problem into like a really good opportunity of learning, to lighten up. Because I know sometimes as a mom, I can get like really uptight, and I have to like really lighten up and say like, Lord, you care about the hearts of my children, and I want this to be a time of learning. Like while they're in my home and under my care, I am called to intentionally steward what I've been given. And practically I can do that, which I do like in an enforceable way. Like I don't give commands anymore unless it's something that I can follow through. So I don't say like, hey, go clean your room, although that's fine. But what I do say is whatever I have to clean up, I'm keeping. And it almost creates like this sense of like, the dirty room is your problem, and I'm helping you find the owner to your problem because this is yours, And like in life, like, as adults, like you don't always get warnings and reminders, like if you're speeding in the car, in the highway or whatever, the police doesn't usually pull you over and say, hey, just a reminder to speed limit 65, like it usually comes with a ticket, and that's your consequence. And next time you're like, all right, 65, I don't want to get a ticket again, You know how to self-regulate and self-manage. As we touched on the emotions last week, I think a lot of us, if we had parents that helped us learn how to manage emotions from young, we wouldn't be in the state we are as adults. You know what I mean? Like trying to do it as parents. The price tag of a child's mistakes are so small, but they continue to get bigger as the child ages. So like if my child, the penguin dies, like that price tag, that's so small. Like the child, your daughter's probably gonna cry. She's gonna, be sad. But that's so much more like affordable than if she's 16 and then doesn't listen to you and then gets into a car and kills someone. You know what I mean? Like that no longer is affordable. And so a lot of like what I'm going through today with parenting, don't waste these small mistakes. Don't waste these small moments because they are learning opportunities. And I think if we can change our mindset from like, oh, why are you tantruming? Why are you acting out? Why are you disobeying? Why aren't you doing your chores? Etc. If we can change our mindset, it will actually help us to like train them be a healthy and responsible adult. So I love that.
These strong, resilient kids is like, you gotta like beat it into them basically. Yeah. Like no, at a young age.
That's great. Yeah, if you can like continue to work on that, like saying less and then following through. Like you say it once and then you follow through. And I think that's where a lot of us, especially as women, like we're talkative, So we're reminding, we're nagging, we're repeating, we're like, maybe he didn't hear me, maybe I'll be saying it a different way. Rarely in life do we get warnings. And there's always time and place for like, we can warn our children. You're doing amazing, so I don't want you to discount that you're not. If you can, remember to swap that word if into something enforceable. Because if for a child becomes a fighting word, because immediately if you say, if you do this, I'm gonna do this, they start like, almost how far can I go? How far can I go? Like it becomes a fighting word in their brain. But if you learn to use enforceable statements, and I'll share some of them with you today, whatever you're able to do, because remember like last week's course, we talked about I'm in charge of me, you're in charge of you. And a lot of parenting is training your children. Like, I love you enough to take care of me, and I love you enough to teach you how to take care of you. Because one day mama's not gonna be around and you need to learn how to self-govern. And so with enforceable statements, it's things like, I'm happy to take you to the store when your room is clean. I'm willing to drive you to your friend's house when the floor is mopped. Or I give kids dessert who eat their eat their dinner. Like, it's whatever you can do for, like, enforceable is what I'm able to do and actually follow through, you know? Because every time that we say something to our children and we can't enforce it, we will lose a sense of authority in their eyes. Like, they're like, oh, mama doesn't mean what she says, she can't back it up, you know? So like what happens is we start coming across as threats. We start being like, do this or else, or if you don't do this, I'm gonna do this, but like really we can't follow through with that if it's not enforceable. Kind of a rule of thumb. So if you, especially with like littles, like in your case, like under 6 really, I would say, there's something called an uh-oh song, and this works really great for littles, like younger. But if there is anything that's happening to the, like, let's say the child is acting out, let's just say in a real life example, tantrums, because you guys touched on this last week. Okay, so let's say you are eating dinner and your child starts, I don't want to eat, and they throw their food. Very just basic. An uh-oh song, this is one, and there's many different forms of discipline, so don't like say this is the only one, but this is like a really good one for littles. So what you would say is, uh-oh, and then you pick up the child and you take him to their room and put him in their room. Younger toddler, or maybe like one you don't trust necessarily, you can put him in his crib. And of course they're gonna yell and scream and fight, I don't want to go to my room, whatever. And then you can get them out when they're sweet. So that's like one really small, that's probably the easiest one. You can try that. And the rule of thumb is to have like so much fun with your kids when they're behaving well. Because I think sometimes we can get busy and distracted that like we don't really pay attention to our children until they're misbehaving, and then we're like pizzazzing that behavior and they're talking back and they're being rude or they're being this and that, they're irritating, you know, and we might make that more of an intention instead of letting that be something that's dealt with in their rooms.
So I want to touch on that subject.
Yeah.
So my soon-to-be 2-year-old.
First important thing is that you want to recognize between a want and a need. So like if your child has all the needs met, like they're not hungry, their diaper's not wet, maybe they've had enough attention with you, connection with you, like those are all needs. The hard thing is, like, especially when they're that little, is identifying like what's a need, what's a want, you know? So if all the needs are, so I would say if your kid's acting out, the first thing is, has his needs been met? Like, have I just been so distracted and busy, I haven't paid any attention to my kid? Have I spent any time playing with him? Have I fed him? Is he thirsty? You know, all those needs, right? Like, are they tired? All those things. That's really important. Now let's say all of those things are taken care of. Next important thing would be their wants. So if he's throwing his, you know, head back and, you know, arching his back, you know, doing his scream, whatever, there are 3 ways that you can go about it. I would say let me go back for that. Yeah, so, okay, I want to cover on 2 things. So 1, when you're saying things like stop it, or you're not going to scream, or whatever, those are not anything that you can enforce. And we all do this, so like this is something for all of us. Like, if you say, hey, you're not going to scream, don't scream, well, what are you going to do when he screams? You know, now you're like, hey, I said don't scream, and then he continues to scream. And now what you're doing is you're doing a power struggle. And no one is winning. And in his eyes, he's losing authority for you, and that's why he can just do whatever he wants, you know? So that's why I would say really, and I'm gonna send some enforceable statements to you. But enforceable means like, what are you able to do? So for me, when my kid is screaming, which my kid is this major screamer, like that's just what he does for fun. He's, 14 months old, always screaming. It's crazy. But I will say things like, Mama will listen to you when your voice is calm, or I will pick you up when you're being sweet. Like, it's what I'm able to do. So if he keeps screaming, now I'm not going to engage in that, because I'm teaching, he's going to be training me that if I pick him up every single time, that he's just going to throw a tantrum to get held. Now, this isn't being held like if he has a need. Like, obviously sometimes our kids scream because they're like, Mom, I miss you, I need you, and that's okay. Like, hug and hold your children as much as possible. This is more so I'm referring to, you've been holding them and they're like good. So I would say 1 is to really figure out if it's a need or a want. 2, I would say find language, and this is where you have to practice like being a proactive parent. So if he's screaming, mama will listen to you when your voice is calm. I'll pick you up when you're being sweet. I'll hold you when you say mama, 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 whatever your words are. The 3rd thing I would say is if he's tantruming like that, that's all very common, very normal. Like development delayed or not, like those are all very normal things for a child because so much is happening to them. And especially if he's doing a lot of screens, he's like sensory overloaded and he doesn't quite know how to like just be, you know? So if he is throwing a fit when you're like, hey, it's time to eat or whatever, I would say the first thing is to remove the child. So that's when you would use the uh-oh. Don't even say anything. Like if he throws himself on the floor, don't throw yourself on the floor. Don't do that. Stop screaming. Don't like say anything. Because you want your actions to be more powerful than your words. Because your words can be really empty as a mom, you know? But if I'm saying something and then following through, now it's like, well, mama means what she means, you know? So I would say, uh-oh. That's called the uh-oh song. And then you pick up your child and you carry him to his room where he could be safe. If your child is developmentally, like, he's not going to be safe, you can put him in a pack and play, you can put him in a crib, anywhere where you know he's going to be safe. And you're not, like, abandoning him. You're putting him in a place where you're saying, you're welcome to be with me as long as you're being sweet. But tantrums are not sweet, and I don't want to be around a tantrum. And so I would say that's the first thing. Now the second thing, if it's you, so you either remove the child, which in this case you would, or you would remove the offending object. So if he's like throwing something, throwing a tablet, pulling something away, uh-oh, and you take the tablet, uh-oh, you take the bottle, whatever it is, the offending object. So those are the kind of basic 2 rules, like rules of thumb. And then in this time, you don't want to do any of this out of anger. You don't want to do anything out of this out of sarcasm. You want to make sure that you're like, oh, like empathy. These are some empathetic words, okay? Let me show you. Empathetic responses can be something like, uh-oh, or this is so sad, or bummer. You know, things like that where you're saying, man, little buddy, that's sad. Like, you're pitching a fit. That's not fun, you know? But you don't have to say all those words. You just, out of your heart, you can say just a base, like, how sad, uh-oh, whatever it is that works for your family. And then you would either remove the child or remove the offending object. So I would encourage you to try that. And then the second thing I want to throw in, and I'm going into this, like, I'm really expanding in this because I know all of us moms here probably, we're going to put this into our own stories. Like, you're going to take this to your own child. But the other thing I want to expand on is if you can think of your child, like I mentioned earlier, there's one analogy is a garden. Like, think about everything you're putting into his heart, what it's going to grow. The second analogy is to think of your child like a bank account. So how many deposits are you making into your child every day? And you can make deposits into your child, or you can make withdrawals, right? So just like in normal life, like if I'm constantly, you know, swipe, and then I look at my account and it's negative, that means I withdrew more than I have, you know? But if I'm making deposits, it's like, ooh, that feels good. Like, here's $100, here's $1,000, here's $20, and I'm making deposits, then my bank account is full and I'm happy. So with our child, if we can think of them that way, like every time that you are showing empathy, every time that you are giving them a choice, every time that you are being respectful, kind to them, loving them, you know, meeting their needs, you are filling their emotional bank account. But every time you're like angry, frustrated, fighting, you're withdrawing. Oh, I think she logged off. Oh, there she is. Hey, Jazzy.
I'm back.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, I'll make sure. Yeah. So, yeah, if you think of your child of an emotional bank account, like, you know, you deposit into them with kindness, with love, with empathy, with choices, but then you make, you know, those are good deposits and you'll notice they'll be full and happy. But if you're always withdrawing, like, you know, being angry, being frustrated, just kind of like snapping or being irritable, you're going to withdraw so much that they'll be empty, you know. One other way is to, in regard to like feeding or depositing into their emotional bank account, is by offering choices. So a choice for a child is anything that doesn't make a problem for anybody in the world. So I'm not gonna offer my child, hey, do you wanna eat broccoli for dinner or ice cream? Because the kid's gonna eat ice cream, you know? But if I don't care what choice he's making, I'll offer it. Hey, do you want broccoli or carrots for dinner? Either way, I don't care which choice you make. Just make a choice or I'll make one for you. You know, like, that's fine. And so if you can think of your children in regard to like emotional bank accounts and even practicing like intentionally offering them choices all throughout the day. At first it might feel a little annoying to you as a parent because you're like, this is so extra. But when you notice that your child, like they're starting to like beam with joy because they feel like they're a part of the family now, and like it helps them be like, it helps them have a sense of ownership. Like, man, I belong in this family. My opinion matters. Like what's going on in my mind and heart matter. They will be more open to responding to your discipline. Because anger and frustration feeds misbehavior. So if your kid is acting out over and over and over again, I would say, how frustrated are you? How angry are you? Because that's only going to continue to feed that, you know? When it's like what I said in the first class, like we are all given a toolbox in life and it's our responsibility to fill it with all the tools we need, you know? So like if somebody comes to build your house and they have the best hammers, I'm gonna be like, I'm really glad you have great hammers, but where's the rest of the tools, you know? Like I want to see that you're able to be like full, well-rounded. And so as like women, like we are continuously adding tools to our toolbox, like becoming a better mom, becoming a better wife, becoming a better Christian, becoming a better friend. But those sometimes we need actual skills, you know, otherwise we're just kind of like using that same hammer, whether I'm building a house or whether I'm painting. Like you can't use the same skill for every, you know, like way of life. So I'm glad that you're able to grab a couple things. Yeah, I would encourage you with your son, like this week, find something that's enforceable that you can practice. Because just like at your job, you know, when you learn a new skill, you're not going to be an expert right away. You're going to fail a billion times before you actually feel confident to do it. So I would say do something small, like start small. Like the first thing I would do is offer him a choice. Hey, it's, you know, time for your screen. Do you want to watch Bluey or Cocomelon? Do you want to watch your show on the couch or do you want to watch it in your bed? You know, I mean, whatever your life looks like. And then whenever it's time for that show to stop, I would say something like, do you want to go ahead and finish the show or do you want to be done now? And so of course he's going to choose to finish the show, but what you did is just you deposited into him, like, you know, and he's 2, almost 2, so he's not going to quite understand this mindset just yet. But when he's 4, 5, 6, that's going to matter a lot, you know? So like if I'm taking my kids to the playground, I don't run into that whole like, they're screaming, I don't want to leave, I want to keep playing with my friends. Because I've deposited enough into them that when I say, hey guys, it's time to go. Do you want to leave now or do you want to do one more slide? They'll be like, one more slide. And then they happily go to the car, you know? And so a lot of it as a parent is like being proactive and thinking ahead of your child so that you're never left in a place where you're just reacting out of anger and frustration. Yeah, and then the uh-oh song is the first thing you want to learn for little ones. Like my kid's 14 months old and I do the uh-oh. Yeah. I don't want to go home. I want to be at the playground. Like that whining. We don't deal with a lot of whining because I've deposited enough into my children, that when I say, hey, this is, you know, time to go. Do you want to go home or go one more slide? Like they have enough in their heart's deposit bank account to be good, to trust my word. And so I was saying, like, if we are not depositing into our children and we're constantly withdrawing, what happens is that they start withdrawing from us. And then we're just all worn out, burnt out, angry, frustrated, whiny. But that's not a normal, healthy way to live as a family. Not saying those things don't happen, like our kids, you know, still act out and they whine, and all of your kids will, because it's part of being like, we as adults, you know, we have our moments where we have our little fits, but it's so much less common when they're filled, you know, like with your kindness or empathy.
I give them too much leeway to have an opinion, so sometimes my opinion don't matter because they know everything. So
yeah,
that's what I.
Well, if you want to come up with the strategy, I'm sure one of your questions can help every other mama too. If you want to go through one thing, yeah. So I would say in those kind of cases, I would say, like, start making it a habit every single day to deposit into them. And it can be so simple, like, hey, it's time for dinner. Do you want to eat with your sippy cup or your glass cup? Hey, it's time for bed. Do you want to sleep with your pajamas, or do you want me to choose your pajamas? You know, hey, it's time to brush your teeth. You want me to brush your teeth, or do you want to brush your teeth? But you only keep with 2 choices, because you don't want to be stressed out being like, there's so many decisions. You know, you don't want decision fatigue. And then if they don't make a choice within 10 seconds, make it for them. And they start learning, oh wait, if I don't think for myself, someone else is gonna think for me. And we start becoming very, like, the opinion is gonna be, like, it's gonna matter. Like, your word's gonna have weight. If you can have, like, respect with your children, which will come, you know, as with time.
That's what we're learning.
Yeah.
Respect from mommy more than anything.
Yeah, because there will be a time when you'll be able to say, hey kids, I have let you guys make so many choices today. And then you can remind them, you know, I let you guys have extra time at the park. I let you guys choose where you wanted to eat out. I let you guys stay up later, but now it's mommy's time, and I'm gonna make this decision to go home. And I'm gonna ask that you honor that. So there's times when you can just be a mom and you can say those things. But if you're finding yourself in power struggles, it's because usually of a couple reasons. One, there's too much withdrawal. Maybe you're like repeating yourself too much, you're not following through with your words, or things are not enforceable. You're like, hey, we gotta go. You know, what if the kids doesn't leave? Now what? Are you gonna drag him out? Like, you gotta figure out, like, whatever I say, you know, and sometimes I'll do that with my son. Hey, you know, it's time to go. Do you wanna be respectful and walk to the car, or do you want me to carry you through the parking lot? And he's always like, nah, I'm gonna do it myself, you know, I'm independent. So power struggles is really because they don't have enough, like, many times they don't feel like they have enough power to share. And so if they don't feel like they're sharing power with you, they're gonna struggle to get that power from you. Now obviously as a mom, I'm not saying like I let my kid do whatever he wants and that his choice defines my entire day. I don't do that. I don't wake up this morning and say, hey son, what do you want to do today? Like, you lead us. I don't do that. But I do say, okay, it's time for breakfast. My kid, I don't want to eat. Okay, no problem. Would you like to, you know, and then I ask, would you like to eat the oatmeal mommy made, or do you want to go hungry? And then he's like, oh, I'll eat the oatmeal. That's fine. And then when he's, you know, if he chooses not to eat the oatmeal, no worries. I'll serve lunch at 12. You're welcome to eat again. Mommy, can I have a snack? Oh no, buddy. Food will be served at 12. Sorry, you're hungry. You should eat breakfast. And then you carry on, you start building this like way of thinking where they start saying, wow, I'm in charge of me. And if I make a choice, the only person that suffers is me. You know, like mom and dad don't suffer because I made a poor decision. Usually, you know.
Well, that's what I'm working on too, is holding, like you were saying.
Yeah, and just work on like don't try to work on everything in 1 week. Because I think what happens is parents try to like, okay, I'm gonna work on disrespect, table manners, and this and that, and chores, and it kind of like wounds the child, kind of breaks their spirit. Yeah. So I would say find your biggest issue and just really work on that until you feel very confident. So like one issue you can work on is just like, I'm gonna practice saying enforceable statements this week. And that's all you do. Even if they're like doing other things, you're not like trying to do a million different ways, like learning all the skills in 1 week. Just focus on like, okay, I'm gonna say something.
That's what I do. Like last week, I was focusing on your choice. Your choice, your chore. So I just gotta put boundaries because they won't do it. So and then I go to the point of the raging, the screaming, and the yelling part.
Yeah. Yeah, so you'll have to come up with a game plan. Like, I don't know if you're married or not. I don't remember if I got that detail from you. But come up with the...
No.
Okay. So you're an amazing hero. Single moms have it so hard. So I would say come up with like some sort of strategy, some sort of plan. I mean, even message me. We can brainstorm something together. But if your child is going to bed without doing their chore, there's nothing wrong with letting them letting them go to sleep and then waking them up. Hey, buddy, at midnight.
That's what we did.
Hey.
That morning, I got up and we're like, hey, since we didn't do it last night, we got to get it done before we go to school this morning.
Yeah.
So we were able to get completed that morning.
Yeah.
It's just, when it's going to be end? When is the end that I can have a peaceful house for a moment?
Oh, yeah. And I would say just really work on what you're able to control, you know? Like work on what you're able to say and follow through on. And if you're, you know, if the kid's not doing his chore and let's say, I mean, I guess you got to take the kid to school. But, you know, he wants to go to his friend's house. You can say, I'll take you to your friend's house as soon as this chore is done. And you're not saying, hey, don't forget this or don't forget that. You just say it once and then you let the child know, wow, mommy means business. Like, she's going to follow through, you know? So I would, yeah, I mean, journal something this week. You know, what are your struggles? What are your biggest struggles? And just find one thing and really hone in on that. And that will prevent you a lot from being angry. If you can practice those empathetic, like, uh-oh, or how sad. Like, let them own their own problem instead of trying to make their problem yours and you're frustrated, angry because it's not getting done. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't ask my kid to do something that's gonna affect my life. So I'm not like, hey buddy, can you cook dinner? You know, because if he doesn't cook dinner, now we're all hungry. But I'll do something that I almost hope that he forgets so that I can have a teachable moment. Because all of these mistakes are all like teachable moments of wisdom. Like every failure or forgetful thing is a moment for me to impart wisdom into their life that they did not have previously, you know? So it's almost like a reframing.
It's nice, but it's overwhelming at times.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but you're doing good. You're like right there, you know, like trying to use some skills and things. It's tough at first.
Yeah, I'm at a point of just enjoying the different trials and tribulations and just learning those different tools. Yeah, I remember getting frustrated in that moment, but then knowing that it's just for that moment, I have learned a tool that the next moment when it happens, I don't react the same way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'm enjoying the fact. I may be coming on like I'm very stressed, but
yeah,
it has its moments, and then I'm in that moment enjoying those stressful moments because, you know, I love my babies and I'm just growing them to be better human beings, and I just gotta go through it. I know how to take it back because my mom always said that you're not gonna treat me like this, or you're not gonna do this to me. It's like I'm not doing it to you. I'm just growing and learning different things, and I have to take that from my kids that they're not doing it to me personally. It's just they're just growing and they're learning, and I'm learning to manage them too. So giving myself that grace is what I know. But yeah,
and if you can find a way to be proactive, you won't put yourself into a position where you're being reactive, you know? So if you're like finding yourself constantly frustrated, angry, come up next time, like when you go to bed, think in your head, like find one problem of the day and think, how can I have handled this in a proactive way where I could have thought about this in advance? Mentally, it can be very draining.
I think it's more,
Go ahead.
I think it's more of like the stress of life that gets me, and then I kind of react to my kids with that.
Yeah.
Not sort of what they're doing.
Yeah.
But it's just like once I get all of this other thing figured out, I can be the best mom for them. But once I get this, it's just still going to be overwhelming.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
Stress. Stress is such a killer. I hear you. If I'm stressed, I'm like snapping and frustrated. I have to be like, okay, this is just a season. Like if I can give my all to this motherhood, I will have my job later. I will have this later. But like to be faithful and to give my all 100% to the people in my life that I'm called to steward and love, like this is what matters in this short little window, you know? But I mean, I hear you, like trying to balance and manage it all. It can be really hard, really draining.
It can also be challenging, even when you have like a marriage life, like we was talking before. Like sometimes our husbands don't understand. Well,
I know, I hear you. It's a lot. Yeah. Sometimes like I'll have to just be like, okay, God made me. I can manage. I can handle. I can bear this weight because I have everything in me that can make it work. You know. Yeah, that's a lot. Well, in regard to time, we're at 2:38, so I can't believe it's already been an hour. Felt like we just started. But what we'll do, I will send some notes your way after we finish. But if there's no other questions for something specific this week, then I'll let you ladies go. But the biggest thing I'd love for you ladies to work on this week is, again, just going back to that thing of making time for yourself. You know, it's not selfish to have self-care because you can't pour from an empty cup. And the second thing is, in regard to today's class, like choose one problem area in just a child or your family dynamic and really work on empathy, like showing them love. Empathy, like, oh, I'm sad that you made that decision, instead of anger. And then following through with some enforceable statements. Like, what can you say that you can follow through, and start making that like just something you can practice. It might feel a little awkward at first because you have to like reframe the way that you speak. But yeah, I would just encourage you ladies this week to just work on those two things. Really just one big problem area. And if you want to send a message in the chat or privately to me, we can dissect one specific area if you want and really go through it in like a very practical way. But I hope this was helpful to you. I really want it to be like a practical takeaway today. But if no one has anything else or no other questions, I will let you ladies go.